Good afternoon and welcome to this webinar presented by Lincoln Minerals. Today we're joined by Lincoln's CEO, Jonathon Trewartha, and exploration geologist, Justin Gum. Today's webinar will focus on Lincoln's advancements at its Minbrie copper-zinc project in South Australia. If you have any questions during the session, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. I'll now hand you over to Jonathon.
Thank you very much, Chris, and thank you everyone for joining us. I will just share my screen. Share. And there we are. Okay, so thank you for all joining us straight after lunch. I'm here with Justin Gum, who is, I should say doctor, shouldn't I? But anyway. Justin is one of the main drivers behind Minbrie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a quick chat about the overview of Minbrie and why we're excited. I will then go in and explain where it fits with our corporate strategies, and then we'll go into more detail and show you why we're excited. All right, so that's the normal disclaimer. So as most of you know, Lincoln's got 4 assets. We've got the Minbrie copper-zinc, we've got the Kookaburra graphite, which is at PFS level. We've got the high purity iron, which is 1.2 billion tonnes. That's also it's at DFS level, and our uranium exploration. So we're focusing on Minbrie. The most amazing thing is all these assets are all on similar tenements in an amazing location for infrastructure with power, water, and ports all within roughly 30 to 50 Ks. Some are even less than 5 Ks. So Minbrie so the actual Bud 192, which is a hole that got us really interested, is a hole that should never have been drilled. Back in 2011, Centrex was drilling for its magnetite project, Bungalow, and that was drilling 70,000 meters. It was basically had 3 rigs going. It was night shift. The drillers were told that they were meant to stop just after they finished left the ore body, the magnetite ore body. It was night shift. They kept on drilling. In the morning, the geologist came along, saw this amazing massive sulfide, and they drilled for another 3 shifts. Now, they shouldn't have drilled, and the reason for that is Lincoln had the rights for everything but the iron, and so Centrex was basically drilling for no benefit for them. Lincoln at the time, 2011, it came, had a look, said that's great, but we've got our Kookaburra graphite, which graphite was hot back then, copper was less so, and it also had its own little iron show. So it basically, this hole got forgotten. So until late last year. And it's amazing hit, 29.5 meters at 0.8% copper, 7.5% lead and 1.9 zinc. But the great thing is that the 12 meters at 1.3% copper and 12, that's actually, you know, if you've got 1.3, 12 meters, then that shows you're in a good system. Now this puts Minbrie in context because it has got chances for being a major discovery. The reasons why I like it is it's located in South Australia, Gawler Creighton. That's Olympic Dam, Prominent Hill. You've got Moonta, you've got Hillside, you've got lots of big projects. It could be SEDEX, VMS, epithermal. That's for us to work out over time. You've got this beautiful Kalajari shear, which is crustal tapping, which means that there were hot fluids flowing. That's a tongue twister. And then this interesting deformation phase, which Justin will talk about. It's also the resource potential is copper-based metals, and it's got potential zoning over 7 k's strike. It's less than 300 meters. It's about, at the moment, 120, 140 we're looking at. That means it's open pittable, and that means lower costs. We've got a whole lot of existing drill holes. Most of them are just sniffs into the ore body, because remember, the Centrex was focusing on the magnetite project above. But that's all free at the moment. And we've got this economic intersection that says 29.5 meters. So that ticks a lot of boxes. And great jurisdiction, and close to Port Pirie, and it's 100% owned by us. Copper, most people know electrification, economic growth. BHP has said that it's predicted to increase 70% over 20 to 2050 and 35% to 2030. So it's got a big growth story. So now I'll talk about where Minbrie fits in our strategy. So first of all, why Lincoln Minerals? We've got 2 company makers already in our portfolio. We've got the Kookaburra graphite, and we've got the green iron project. Now, both of those could be standalone in any company, and once the metal price goes up, these will be standalone company making projects. Also, because it has a potential to be a major discovery, Minbrie could end up being another company, an exploration company maker for us. So we've got 3 pillars we look at for our strategy: a diversified portfolio, fully owned, going from greenfields to DFS. This capital efficiency, we've got over $100 million worth of data that we actually mine. We call it mining, which we can leverage off. And because we've got a great portfolio, we will be flexible. We can be a bit more flexible of where we put our energy, depending on where the market is. So, but for our goals for 2025, advance the Minbrie project, unlock, looking at the uranium assets, and as most of you are following, uranium prices look like they've got a fundamental change. And we'll Kookaburra graphite and the high purity iron, that's the magnetite. We're looking at that strategically more and avoiding non-dilutive financing. We've got a good, strong news flow over the next 2 months, both from Minbrie, our uranium, and some updates from our high purity iron. So once again, where does Minbrie fit? So this is a Lassonde curve. I imagine most of you have seen this. Effectively, exploration and discovery, for little cash, you've got a good chance for a high value share price, increase in the share price. As soon as you've done your scoping study, then it falls down and then into studies, and it's there's a whole lot of project risk associated with it until you get back into our project. So where Minbrie fits is it's at low cost. We can have a high potential increase in share price. So that's what we wanted in this current market. Uranium's at greenfields. That's also we can push that up the curve. And the magnetite, that's roughly between $500 million to $2.5 billion capex. We're looking for a partner. Now the graphite has been at the bottom of the market, but there is now signs that is turning, and it's reflected in some other company shareholders' prices like Sierra and Renascor. But our focus right now is highest return on invested money, and that falls into the copper and the uranium. And so that's why we're focusing on Minbrie. So there are the beautiful rocks of 192. So we've got an amazing team. Justin has been working in the Gawler. Oh, Justin, I'll let you talk.
Yeah, I suppose I've been working the last 5 or 6 years, well, for quite a long time in the Gawler Craton, but last 5 or 6 years focusing on the mineral systems of the Gawler Craton, looking at, I suppose, primarily gold, but all the other commodities going around as well, particularly in the southern Gawler ranges, that sort of area.
Yeah. And we've got John Parker, who is was the MD of Lincoln Minerals, and he was also head of the Mines Department's Geological Survey for a long time, and he did his PhD on Eyre Peninsula. So extensive knowledge about this area. Shane O'Connell, lots and lots of experience. He was BHP's Olympic Dam head geologist. Luckily for us, he decided that he enjoyed the tools better, and he came back and does the tools, but lots of knowledge there. And Shannon Pope is our in-house geologist, really holds the glue and holds us all together in this, and is fundamental in this success. So I'll pass it over to you, Justin, on this.
Okay, so one of the reasons we're so excited in this project is its location, close to the, very close to the Kalanjala shear zone, but it's also at a point of inflection in that shear zone, which suggests that we might have a lot of fluids migrating through this area. The mineralization that we've seen in 192 appears to be quite complex. There's some very early layered sulfides in there, which is where we talk about the SEDEX or VHMS potential. They are broadly, we've dated as part of a PACE program. There was a date on the Cook Gap schists, very close by, within a few hundred meters of Archean age. So we're assuming primary mineralization in this area. The lead zinc came in the Archean. And since then, there's been several major episodes of deformation and further intrusions. So with the most recent being the Hiltber, part of the Tundulia intrusive suite that has brought in potentially copper mineralization into the system. We see a lot of remobilization of the lead and zinc sulfides, but we also see a lot of copper mineralization within small veins going through the system.
And the Hiltber, that's associated with Prominent Hill, Olympic Dam, Carrapateena, isn't it?
That's correct, yeah.
All right, so we're leveraging off this legacy data to define drill-ready targets. So $30 million has already been spent on this, on the Bungalow magnetite. Now, as we go through, you'll see a chunk of this money it helps us because although they directly didn't, except for one hole, drill into the deposits, it gives us a good understanding of what's right next door, which will help. So sometimes it's indirect, but it's still very helpful. So today we've got 10 walk-up drill-ready targets. Our priority targets are BUD 192 and BURD 30, which we'll talk about shortly. And we're ongoing mapping this core. So we'll move to BUD 192, and I'll pass it over to you, Justin.
Thanks, Jonathan. The interesting thing is, even though 192 went fair way into the footwall and had a good intersection of this mineralization, initially we thought the BURC D30 had not intersected mineralization directly below it. But we've actually gone back and in the re-logging process realised that this hole didn't go anywhere near far enough to intersect that that same horizon. And when we went back and had a good look at the lithologies in the hole, about 4 or 5 meters before the end of the hole, we noticed there was disseminated copper sulfides in there and some bornite. So this is really encouraging that we are only just about to reach that. So one of the priority targets we'll be drilling is extending that, or drilling parallel to that and extending into that horizon there, testing it and testing around 192 to see what the extent of these sulfides are, get a much more wide geochemical sample suite so that we can actually determine which elements we can use for vectoring along this horizon, and get some more structural measurements so we can actually pick up what the veining that we see remobilizing these sulfides, what orientation these veins are in, and what systems we may be able to pick up associated around the layered lead zinc sulfides associated with the same system, or the similar system.
And Justin, remind me, why did geologists, when they see bornite, get a bit more excited than if they see charcoal?
Well, bornite tends to be, there's more copper per sulfur in the bornite, so it tends to be a much better economic system as well, mineral to have in your system. So.
Yeah, thank you. So once again, we're talking about this using our legacy data smartly. We've already logged 1,775 meters and scanned it using XRF, and we've chosen 224 intervals that we've sent to the lab that we think is interesting. Now this is effectively all the drilling's for free. So we're although it's not the most perfect drilling we want, exactly where we want, it's still a great insight into the ore body. And we're building up this 3D model. So we've, instead of just having one drill hole or 2 drill holes and trying to link kilometers apart, we've got an excellent 3D model that we're already building. So, and once again, you can see the full extent of all the drill holes, and we'll systematically be working through these over the. It'll probably the program for that will probably take 6 to 12 months. Now this is part of your work, which is awesome, and explain why this is as good as it is.
Well, as Jonathan, as you mentioned before, the previous logging of the holes was focused only on the iron ore, and these sulfides, they did log a massive sort of pyrite sulfide unit that does occur between the banded iron formations and the altered limestone of the Katanga dolomite. The mineralization that we saw in the layered sulfides is between these 2 units and is in the middle. But we've also identified with the logging going through intently, picking out the different types of sulfide that we've seen in the various holes that do go a little bit into the lower stratigraphy. And we've identified, in addition to the massive sulfide that the iron ore geologists identified, the layered sulfide in 192. We're also seeing a lot of veins, including chalcopyrite veins, which are probably a later phase of mineralization. And we've also, in the last campaign of drilling as well, the campaign of logging, we've actually identified zones of pyrrhotite associated with nearby mafic lithologies. And this is something that's really interesting that's hadn't been identified before. It's the amount of mafic lithologies, actually, mafic gneisses and mafic amphibolites and pyroxenites that we're seeing in the package, which suggests that rather than a SEDEX system, we may actually be looking at an Archean VHMS system to get the layered sulfides. So that's quite interesting in and of itself, and may give us a wider suite of metals to search for as well.
It also makes it, in terms of, it makes it not frustrating. I'm trying to think of the word. When I go to Justin, I say, well, where's the source? You know, how are we going to find this source? And you're saying, well, actually, there's probably going to be 3 or 4 different sources that have come in at different ages. And so it's not just, okay, we've got this, let's go go follow it
Yeah.
back.
It's a complex system, and if you look at most of the bigger ore bodies around the world, they're hosted in complex systems where you've had multiple phases of fluids coming through the ore zone and successively upgrading the mineralization. So,
and is that why we're finding nickel and other metals in different zones? Because it might be that these four.
The nickel probably indicate, because of the adjacent mafic and ultramafic lithology, it's probably only a local mineral remobilization around those. But it does go to show that there's been pervasive fluid movement through the whole package, and that's very key. It doesn't rule out on an outside chance of magmatic sulfide being present in those lithologies as well.
Yeah, so the more complex it is, the better it is.
Definitely, yes, yeah, always.
That's not easy to sell a message. So once again, we talked about structurally complex. I think we've covered.
Well, this section's actually quite key as well, and for the I suppose down or later on extension of the project, if we can find the sulfides, we're looking at a very simple part of the system. Down to the south, it's complexly folded, and we actually get the same horizon being folded around again. So there's the opportunity for repeats and structural thickenings of any mineralization that may be there. So that's quite interesting. And this was a slide that John did way back in the early stages of the project. So.
And that's what we just talked about. We're seeing these zonings, which could be from the VMS or. That's a journey that we're going to have to find out.
Well, it's quite curious that the nickel appears right to the north at the limits of our drilling that we know. So, yeah, that's quite an interesting one to see how that'll develop.
Yeah. So, one of the things in terms of expectations of the news flow, we're basically going to be bringing out assays over the next month. Because these were just little 3 to 12 meter punches through the footwall, we were really lucky with that 29.5 meters where they can drilled. The assays will be coming out will be more just sniffs and smokes, won't they?
Yeah, well, the work we've done already from the re-assaying that we've got back. So far, we've sort of done correlation analysis on the elements, and we're picking up several key indicator elements that we may be able to use to vector in towards where the bodies of the layered sulfides might be lurking in the footwall there. So that's already a good news story.
Yeah, but until we drill, we're not going to be coming out with 30 meters at 1.5% copper, because they would just the acid. We're just because we've got that footwall, those little nubs. So in terms of what the work we've got to do is we've got to conduct the remaining assays and analyze it, finalize the 3D model. We're looking at having our drill targets selected by late June. Then we've got to lodge our pepper, and then we're going to drill it and see the results. So the pepper will be, that's over the next 2 up to the pepper, and then will be when we receive approval to drill. So that ends our Minbries, and I'm sure there's questions about Minbrie, which we'll answer. Just on our Kookaburra graphite, I believe this Kookaburra graphite will be the first mover when the metal price increases, because it's got low capex, 29 million, and a lot of that's because of the infrastructure. Power is 6 k's, water's 13. If we don't have to build a town, we don't have to build airports, and we're starting in a 2-stage, so that is looking good. And we've got, and as I say, I think there's a sentiment moving geopolitically on graphite, and we've now come up with a great result. 99.95 is the minimum you need for purity for graphite EV batteries, and we've had 2 tests that actually have surpassed that. So that's good, and we'll be looking to do a scoping study in the second half of the year. With a high purity iron, I was at a conference 2 months ago, and I hadn't appreciated. I knew that there was demand for direct reduction iron, but I hadn't appreciated that only 5% of the world ore bodies, iron ore bodies, actually can be done. You convert to direct reduction iron, and we're one of them. And why is everyone moving towards direct reduction iron? Is it's 8% of the 8% of the world's carbon emissions come from steel making. If you use arc furnaces and direct reduction ore, you can get it down to 2% with gas, and if you use hydrogen, it's 0. So that's why it's important. And uranium, it's coming back. We've got we've got an agreement being finalised for access to Jungle Dam, and once that's signed with all of our tenements with traditional owners, we can access for exploration, which is great, and we'll be reviewing what we do with uranium. So multiple catalysts across the commodity classes: the copper, lead, zinc, which is our main focus right now, the graphite for strategic partnerships, and downstream uranium. We'll be interested to see where the metal price goes for that, and our green iron, which is strategic. So I will hand it back. So thank you, Justin.
Okay.
And I'll hand it back to you, Kristen.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Justin. We've got time for a couple of questions. First one comes in regarding Minbrie. You're looking to define drill targets by the end of this quarter. What kind of drill program are you planning to follow these up with?
I'll just start by, so we're going to have a limited drill program to test the 192 and one other target area, I think. It's better to start small and build on the information we've got. Justin, would you?
Yeah, I think that's the sensible direction to go, is to work out from where the result we've got. With the logging from our holes, we realise there's quite a lot of variability. As I mentioned before, it's a very complex system, a lot of structural controls going on there and veining going through. So a couple of holes close to the existing one to give us the information we need to then move out further.
Yeah, but we're lucky we're starting off with an amazing 29.5 metre discovery hole. Most people start off with 0.2s and 0.5, so we're quite lucky there.
Excellent, excellent. Another question around Minbrie. Today's announcement noted 200+ samples were in the process of being assayed. How many are re-assays and how many are virgin assays?
Most of those are, so all of them are assays that haven't tested for various copper, lead, zinc. And most of them are assays that have never been done before. We've got 200, how many? We've got about 85 pulp assays, which are re-assays. That's not including the 220. They've gone into the lab as well. Okay. So in fact, we've got probably 300 then assays.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan. We've received a couple of questions regarding funding. How does Lincoln intend to fund its future business operations, and what is the status of the various strategic discussions you have previously referred to?
Okay, so in terms of our funding, we are very conscious and very protective of avoiding as much as possible dilution of our existing shareholders. And so that means that we have to cut costs, which we've done. To run it as because the market is tough. When I joined, we were in the bottom quartile of the juniors. That's market cap of less than 100 million. We're now in the second quartile, and that's not, we've only increased our market cap by 3 million in that period. But everyone else we're swimming against the stream at the moment, so we are protective. But as I said, based on the uranium and the graphite, and with copper being good, we're actually in a great position to benefit from those uplifts. In terms of the iron and the graphite do really require bigger investments, so we're looking for non-dilutionary strategic finance there, and with and also there is government funding that we're pursuing. Or a lot of the strategic and government funding is longer term, and you never know when it's going to drop. So I'm not going to predict that, oh yeah, we'll go next week or something, because you can't predict when they say yes, or when a deal happens. In terms of, we might go out to the market occasionally when we see it's strategic. That's what a junior does.
Okay. Thanks, Jonathon. Thank you to everyone that has attended. That's all we have time for today. A recording of this webinar will be made available in the coming days. For further updates, please visit Lincoln's website at www.lincolnminerals.com.au. Thank you to everyone who attended.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Kristen, for hosting.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.